The Cleveland Browns just stepped into dangerous territory, and their biggest star is caught in the middle of a mess that could determine whether this franchise climbs out of the gutter or stays stuck for another decade. Picture this: a record-breaking defensive end, the most dominant force the NFL has seen this season, watching helplessly as his team burns through yet another head coach while his prime years slip away. But this isn't just about Kevin Stefanski getting fired after 6 disappointing years. No, this is about what comes next, and it could change everything for Myles Garrett and the Browns. Before we dive deeper into this absolute chaos, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. You're not going to want to miss where this story goes next. Monday, January 6th, 2026, the Cleveland Browns organization sent shockwaves through the NFL when they officially parted ways with head coach Kevin Stefanski. A 2-time NFL Coach of the Year, the man who brought this cursed franchise its first playoff win since 1994, was now out of a job. The announcement came just one day after the Browns closed their season with a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, where Myles Garrett broke the single-season sack record with his 23rd takedown of the year. You'd think breaking an NFL record would be cause for celebration, but for Garrett, it was bittersweet, because he knew what was coming. The Browns finished the 2025 season with a pathetic 5-17 record, their second consecutive losing season after going just 3-14 in 2024. That's 8 wins in the past 34 games. 8 over 2 full seasons. Stefanski's overall record with the Browns, 45-56. The offense, which was supposed to be his specialty as an offensive-minded coach, ranked in the bottom 3 in both yards and points. The team went through quarterbacks like they were rotating tires: Joe Flacco, Dylan Gabriel, Shedeur Sanders, Kenny Pickett. None of it worked. The dysfunction was visible from the outside, and according to reports, things weren't much better behind closed doors. But here's where this gets interesting. While the offense was an absolute dumpster fire, the defense became an unstoppable force. Led by defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, the Browns' defense ranked 4th in the NFL in total yards allowed, surrendering just 283.6 yards per game. They were 3rd in passing defense, allowing only 167.2 yards through the air. The unit recorded 53 sacks, 3rd most in the league, and set a franchise record for sacks in a season. And at the center of it all was Myles Garrett, who just had perhaps the greatest defensive season in NFL history. Garrett's 23 sacks shattered the previous record held by T.J. Watt and Michael Strahan. He became the first player to break that barrier in a single season, doing it on a team that won just 5 games. Think about that for a second. This man was unstoppable, week after week, even though opposing offenses knew exactly where he was and could game plan specifically to neutralize him. He had 5 sacks in a single game against the New England Patriots in October. The Browns lost 32-13. He recorded multiple sacks in multiple games throughout the season. His presence on the field was so dominant that he forced holding penalties, changed how quarterbacks threw the ball, and made offensive coordinators lose sleep. And yet, his team couldn't win. After that Patriots game, Garrett sat alone on the bench as the clock wound down. When reporters asked him about his historic performance, he said something that broke the hearts of Browns fans everywhere. He said he would throw away all 5 sacks if it meant getting a win. This wasn't about individual glory for him. This was about winning, and he wasn't getting it in Cleveland. Now, let's rewind for a moment. This isn't the first time Myles Garrett has expressed frustration with the Browns. Back in February 2025, after the team stumbled to a 3-14 finish, Garrett publicly requested a trade. He released a statement that read like a breakup letter. He said his love for Northeast Ohio and the Browns fan base made it one of the toughest decisions of his life, but his desire to win wouldn't allow him to be complacent. He made it clear. The goal was never to go from Cleveland to Canton. It was to compete for and win a Super Bowl. He wanted out. The Browns front office, led by general manager Andrew Berry, immediately pushed back. Berry went on record saying he had zero interest in trading Garrett, even for 2 first-round picks. He said the organization envisioned Garrett retiring as a Brown and going straight from Cleveland to the Pro Football Hall of Fame in Canton. Owner Jimmy Haslam stood firm. They weren't trading their franchise cornerstone. period. Then, just over a month later, something shocking happened. Garrett had a change of heart. On March 9, 2025, he agreed to a 4-year contract extension worth $160 million, averaging $40 million per year, with $123.5 million guaranteed. At the time, it was the richest contract ever given to a non-quarterback in NFL history. The deal included a no-trade clause, meaning Garrett himself would have to approve any future trade. He was locked in through the 2030 season, his age 35 campaign. So what changed? According to Garrett, it came down to conversations with Andrew Berry in his belief that the Browns had a plan to turn things around. He trusted Berry's vision for building a competitive roster, particularly on offense, where the team desperately needed help. He believed they would finally get the quarterback situation right. He was sold on the idea that the Browns could compete for championships with him leading the defense. But here's the thing. The 2025 season proved none of that was true. The offense got worse. The quarterback carousel continued. Deshaun Watson, the man the Browns traded 3 first-round picks and gave a fully guaranteed $230 million contract to back in 2022, re-tore his Achilles tendon before the season even started. That trade, by the way, is widely considered one of the biggest disasters in NFL history. It crippled the Browns' ability to rebuild because they had no first-round picks to work with for years. They couldn't draft young talent, they couldn't build depth, and Watson's massive contract made it nearly impossible to bring in quality free agents. So when Garrett signed that extension, many fans and analysts saw it as nothing more than a business move. He secured generational wealth, $123.5 million guaranteed. Can you blame him? But the frustration never went away. Throughout the 2025 season, Garrett continued to make it clear that winning was his top priority. When asked about Kevin Stefanski's future as head coach before the firing, Garrett's response was ice cold. He said they'd had ups and downs, but unfortunately, more downs than ups. He didn't campaign for Stefanski to stay. He didn't give some heartfelt endorsement. He made it clear he wanted to win, and if the organization wasn't committed to that, he'd have a problem with it. And now, here we are. Stefanski is gone. General Manager Andrew Berry, who orchestrated the Deshaun Watson disaster and has presided over this mess, somehow kept his job. Berry is now leading the head coaching search, and the decision he makes could determine whether Myles Garrett stays in Cleveland or demands another trade. And this time, he might actually get it. ESPN's Adam Schefter dropped a bombshell warning on national television this week that sent shockwaves through the Browns fan base. He said the Browns absolutely cannot hire a defensive-minded head coach if they want to keep their defense intact. Why? Because Jim Schwartz, the architect of that elite defense, won't be happy if a new defensive-minded head coach comes in and tries to take over his responsibilities. If the Browns hire someone like Brian Flores, Jesse Minter, or Steve Spagnuolo, all defensive coordinators who are in the running for head coaching jobs this cycle, Schwartz would likely walk, and if Schwartz walks, that defense falls apart. Schefter's message was clear: hire an offensive-minded head coach, let that coach fix the broken offense, and keep Schwartz running the defense. Don't mess with what's working. The defense is elite. The offense is the problem. So go find someone who can develop Shedeur Sanders or Dylan Gabriel or whoever the next quarterback is going to be, pair them with a strong offensive coordinator, and let Schwartz keep doing his thing. But here's where it gets even more complicated. Jim Schwartz himself is a candidate for the head coaching job. The Browns are interviewing him. He has head coaching experience. He was the head coach of the Detroit Lions from 2009 to 2013, where he went 29-51 with 1 playoff appearance. It wasn't a great run, but he took over an 0-16 team and eventually led them to the postseason. Since then, he's built a reputation as one of the best defensive minds in football. He was the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles when they won the Super Bowl in 2018. He joined the Browns in 2023 and immediately transformed their defense into one of the league's best. Players love him. Myles Garrett has publicly praised Schwartz, saying he's regimented, efficient, and knows how to maximize talent. Cornerback Denzel Ward went on record saying he highly recommends Schwartz for the head coaching job, calling him a great leader who has helped his game tremendously. Safety Grant Delpit said Schwartz is a fiery guy with the energy to be a head coach and that he's taken the defense to an elite level and kept it there. So if the players want Schwartz, why not just give him the job? Well, because the Browns have a massive problem on offense, and Schwartz is not an offensive guy. If he becomes the head coach, he'll need to hire a strong offensive coordinator to completely overhaul that side of the ball. And historically, defensive-minded head coaches who aren't hands-on with the offense struggle unless they find the perfect offensive coordinator. Just look at the Seattle Seahawks this season. Mike McDonald is a defensive-minded coach, and the offense didn't really take off until they brought in Clint Kubiak as offensive coordinator. The Browns are also interviewing their own offensive coordinator, Tommy Rees, who took over play-calling duties for the final 9 games of the season. Rees is just 32 years old and has never been a head coach at any level, but he's credited with helping develop Shedeur Sanders during his limited playing time. The problem? The offense still stunk under Rees. They ranked 30th in the league. So while he might have potential, handing him the keys to the entire operation seems like a massive gamble. Other names being floated around include Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator who has a reputation for developing quarterbacks and running creative, balanced offenses. There's Joe Brady, the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator, who has helped Josh Allen become an MVP-caliber quarterback. Former Cowboys and Packers head coach Mike McCarthy is also in the mix, as is Cliff Kingsbury, the Washington Commanders offensive coordinator. All of these guys are offensive-minded, which aligns with Schefter's advice to keep Schwartz and pair him with an offensive guru. But here's the wild card nobody's talking about enough. What if the Browns hire a defensive-minded head coach anyway? What if they bring in someone like Jesse Minter, the Los Angeles Chargers defensive coordinator who has built one of the best defenses in football over the past 2 seasons? What if they go with Aiden Durde, the Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator who is a rising star in coaching circles? If that happens, Schefter's warning becomes reality. Schwartz would likely leave to take a defensive coordinator job elsewhere, or he might even land a head coaching gig with another team. And if Schwartz leaves, the Browns lose their defensive identity. Now, here's where Myles Garrett factors into all of this. Garrett just signed that massive extension less than a year ago, but his frustration is rising again. When asked about Kevin Stefanski's firing, his response was measured. He said he wants things to be successful and that as long as the organization is committed to winning, he's on board. But he also made it clear that he plays football. He's not making front office decisions. It was a diplomatic answer, but you could read between the lines. He's watching. He's waiting. And if the Browns screw this up, he's not going to sit quietly. Remember, Garrett has a no-trade clause now. He controls his own destiny. If he decides he's had enough, he can demand a trade to a contender, and the Browns would have no choice but to comply. Teams like the Philadelphia Eagles, Green Bay Packers, and Chicago Bears have reportedly shown interest in Garrett in the past. The Bears even made what ESPN described as an aggressive offer for him before the 2025 trade deadline, though the Browns turned it down. But if Garrett wants out, he's gone, and losing the best defensive player in football would be devastating for a team that's already struggling to stay relevant. Here's the brutal truth. The Browns are at a crossroads. They can hire the right head coach, fix the offense, keep Schwartz and the defense intact, and build around Myles Garrett for a legitimate playoff run. Or they can make the wrong hire, lose Schwartz, watch the defense crumble, and end up back in the same cycle of misery that's defined this franchise for decades. And if that happens, Myles Garrett will demand a trade, and the rebuild will start all over again. The pressure is on Andrew Berry and Jimmy Haslam to get this right. The fan base is exhausted, the players are frustrated, and Myles Garrett, the face of the franchise and the best player they've had in a generation, is watching every move. This isn't just about finding a head coach. This is about proving to Myles Garrett that the Browns are serious about winning, because if they're not, he won't stick around to watch them fail again. This coaching hire could determine the next 5 years of Browns football. It could be the decision that finally turns this franchise into a contender, or the one that sends their best player packing and keeps them stuck in mediocrity. The clock is ticking, the interviews are starting, and somewhere in Cleveland, Myles Garrett is waiting to see if the organization he bet his career on is actually serious about winning.